Hi, Haunted family. Welcome back. Once again, I've pulled together an interesting assortment of stories for you that I hope you enjoy. And if you do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to apologize in advance. If you hear anything weird behind me, I've let my dogs into the studio tonight. So they're just wandering around. Who knows what mischief they're going to get into behind me. Sit back, enjoy the show. Story 1. Amy. In the early 90s, I moved into a Civil War era row house. I knew from the beginning that something was unusual about the place. My roommates and I always felt a presence, like something was watching us. It took about a year or so to find out exactly what that was. One night, my roommate, Josh, and I were in the kitchen den area. My attention kept getting drawn to the corner of the room, by the back door. Josh was sitting by the back door and turned to see what I was looking at. And he did a double take. Even though I couldn't see anything, he swore that he did. He just couldn't describe it, but there was definitely something there. Over the period of the next week, I tried to contact whatever was in our house. This was not new or unusual for me. I've been talking to spirits most of my life. The spirit began to gradually appear to me. At first, it was just a shapeless mist, but gradually took the form of a teenage girl, dressed in Civil War period clothing. When I spoke to her, she was relieved as I was. Her name was Amy, and no one had spoken to her for 20 years. The last people to inhabit our house were totally unaware of her presence. She had died in that house when she was but 16 years old. She wouldn't tell me how or why she didn't travel on to the other side. She and I grew very attached to one another. We talked often and watched TV together. Sometimes she would even lie in bed with me while I slept. The thing she liked to do the most was read. Of course, having no physical arms, she couldn't hold a book or turn the page. So I would ask her what types of things she wanted to read, and then go and get the books out, and then we would read them together, her reading them over my shoulder. After a while, my financial situation got pretty bad. I ended up having to move out of the house. Amy and I were both saddened by this. I offered to try and find some way to take her with me, but she said that she had to stay there. Eventually, I had to leave that town altogether. And now, often at night, I will think about her and allow my awareness to drift back to that old row house where I used to live. I can feel her still there, and I know that she still feels me as well. We smile at each other across the miles. I hope that she accomplishes whatever that she feels she has to stay there to do, and eventually moves on. And I hope that when I take my journey to the other side, she is waiting there for me. Story 2. My aunt's house. It was the mid-80s. I was 16 years old, and my aunt and uncle moved from Queens to New Rochelle. They bought a fairly decent house, which needed a lot of fixing up. For most of the summer, my parents and I went up on the weekends to help out. When it was done, the fixer-upper had become a spectacular home. In December of that year, my aunt and uncle asked my mom to watch my cousins while they went to a company Christmas party, and I tagged along, eager to spend the night, staying up late, fooling around with my cousins. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sounds of my aunt and uncle coming home. I heard someone moving around downstairs, and then began to come up the steps. I got out of bed and went to greet them, but there was no one there. There was no one on the steps, and no one else in the whole house, except for my mom, myself, and my cousins. I quickly re-entered my room. A little while later, I began to hear the sounds coming from the attic. Again, it sounded like footsteps. After a while of being frightened out of my mind, the sounds went away. The next morning, I discovered that my aunt and uncle had not gotten home until the wee hours of the morning. I told everyone what had happened, and naturally, they laughed and said that I'd clearly just dreamed it. It was a product of my overactive imagination. After a while, I began to agree with them and discarded the whole thing. About a month later, I was back at my cousin's house. My younger cousin and I were in the basement, playing with video games. Not knowing why, I turned my head and looked behind me, just in time to see a white mist move around the corner. I very calmly put my joystick down and told my cousin to come upstairs with me. This time I didn't tell anyone what I saw. Not too long after that, my mom told me that she had spoken to my aunt. My youngest cousin had taken up a strange habit. For some reason, around the same time every night, he had started going around the house, making sure the doors were locked and bolted shut. When asked why, he had no answer for them. After a few months, this behavior stopped. After a few years, things quieted down. When my uncle proceeded to tell us, he no longer doubted my ghost story. It seems he was out in the backyard, doing some gardening. My aunt and the kids were gone for the day. He took a break for a moment and looked up to see a woman come around the side of the house, walk up the steps to the back door, and walk in. My uncle called out, thinking it was a neighbor who didn't see him in the yard. He ran into the house after her and found no one. He stated that there was no way the person could have gone back out without coming back his way, and no way she could have gone out the front door, as the door was still bolted shut from the inside. Since then, there hasn't been any other occurrences, and I've been to their house dozens of times since. I often wonder if the presence of a new family and all the ruckus that was made when the house was being remodeled annoyed whatever was in the house, and whatever it was decided to make itself known. Maybe if the family settled into their daily routine, whatever it was calmed down. I'm just waiting to see what happens when they start their next remodel. Story 3. The Boy. I live in one of the many forests in New Mexico, and many of the homes are either built on or near ancient Native American settlements. I've been told by many people that these are sacred mountains. One September, in the late afternoon, I was standing at my kitchen doing the dishes. The kitchen window looks into a solarium where the houseplants live. This particular day, while doing dishes, I looked up into the windows, and there, on the other side of the window, was the manifestation of a young man of about 30 years old. What was so strange was that it was like I couldn't move or look away, and it appeared as though he didn't even see me. It was more like he was looking through me or past me. The thoughts I was receiving was that this man was recently deceased and had died tragically, and before what he thought was his time. He looked so scared and confused. He was wearing blue jeans, a white shirt that wasn't buttoned up at all, white socks, and no shoes. And then he was gone, just faded quickly, and that was that. When I looked into the solarium, the first thing that struck me was that for anyone to stand there in front of the windows on that side, they would have to be standing at least 4 feet off the ground. Before this person's appearance, my family and I had seen shadows moving through the house, and had caught glimpses of people out of the corner of our eye. This was the first time that someone had seen a full-body manifestation in front of them, in or near our house. We were told by a spiritual healer friend that our house had a vortex running through it, a doorway for the spirits to pass into, and that some of them sometimes missed their mark. We get a few passerbys every now and then, wayward spirits that end up in different parts of our house. They usually seem totally unaware of us. We've helped a couple of them move on, and after a while, we get used to the traffic of our house. The spirits just become part of the family. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I really do appreciate it.